of the Prosperity, Livability, and Safety Committee, Monica Peters. We have the following committee members present today: myself and Council Member Patrick Harmon. Absent today is Councilwoman Vicki McKeever and Councilman Tyrone Johnson. So there is not a quorum, but we will hear a presentation today by Eric Olmedo.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, committee members. Thank you for being here today. We have a presentation on our shared use kitchen project. It's been quite a project and a long time coming, but let's tell you where we're at right now. You mind putting that up on the screen for me, Ryan? All right, so a little bit of background on the shared use kitchen. This really started as an idea that came to us in 2018 when we received a technical assistance grant from the USEDA Smart Growth America grant. So this germinated there. A couple of our staff members, Heidi's here, she was involved originally, really took this idea, ran with it a little bit, and then we got fast forward a few years to 2021 when we were first selected. Mayor Wagner was selected for the Bloomberg-Harvard Mayor's Initiative and then the City Leadership Initiative. So we identified this as our project to take to Bloomberg and Harvard as our cross-boundary collaboration project. In 2022, we held our first convening in this room. We had staff from Harvard, staff from Bloomberg, and about 40 to 50 members of the community that are involved in the food network. We had city, county, nonprofit, education, and then business interest represented in this room. In 2022, as part of the Bloomberg-Harvard initiative, we sent a team of 8 to New York City for a week-long training. I was one of the 8, but I was not able to attend because I had COVID that week. So, and then really in 2022, at the end of 2022, we had submitted a federal request for appropriation. Congresswoman Manning was instrumental in us receiving that $2 million award that we were notified of in December of 2022. So from the get-go, that was our first funding that we had to move forward with this project. 2023, the City Council appropriated $2 million in local funds. These were funds that were made available by the ARPA funds that we received, but I want to make clear they're not ARPA funds. They were just made available because we received the ARPA funds. So there aren't the federal restrictions on these funds. At around the same time, we throughout this whole process, we've been searching for land, a suitable location for this, whether it be vacant land or an existing facility that we could renovate and upgrade. But kind of on the same timeline as this is when we purchased 300 Oak. As part of 300 Oak, we had the corner of 300 Oak Street and Russell Street. That's a vacant parcel, and that's when staff and the council decided that would be a great location for this facility. So we moved forward with awarding a contract to Creech & Associates to help us design this facility. That happened in November of 23. We also hired a kitchen consultant. So we hired Carrie Goodman, who was a founding partner and operator of City Kitch, which has locations in Charlotte and Greensboro. She had stepped away from that business and offered to help us consult. So she has years and years of experience in exactly what we were trying to do, is build a shared use kitchen. Creech & Associates had been working on, since November of 23, working on schematic design and getting us an initial price estimate. And we received that in May of 24. So let's talk a little bit about the building plan. With Carrie Goodman's expertise, as well as the group of staff members, community members, that have toured a number of these facilities across the state. We've developed what we think is the plan for the kitchen to make it the most efficient design for the industry. So the components include, of course, the shared use kitchen aspect. One that Carrie brought to us was kitchen condos, which was a new term, I think, for a lot of us, which we'll explain a little bit on the next slide. Dry and cold storage space, preparation space, tenant shared space, the operator offices, and then the idea of having a tasting room and a pickup area that is really the public interaction of the facility. So here's the site plan that we have for 331 Russell. As you know, it's on the corner of Russell and Oak Street. Couple of the reasons why this was such a good site for us was the proximity to 300 Oak and all the activity that we have there with what will happen there. The proximity to the RAISE grant, which will run right behind this building. And then also the fact that it's in Census Tract 143. The federal appropriation we received, it doesn't require it to be in Census 143, but we highlighted Census Tract 143 as as a justification for receiving those funds. Census 143 is one of the poorest census tracts in the state, and it's an area that really needs some revitalization. So. As you note on this schematic, so you see you have on the right-hand side, well, let's go to the top. You have on-street parking, which I think we want to activate that street more, Russell Street with some on-street parking. You have kind of the lot on the right, which is really the public lot. So as people interact, citizens and customers of the facility interact, that's where they would park. And then you have the parking lot that wraps around the back, which would be more of the space for the operator. Likely it would be gated and secure access because it will be a 24-hour facility, most likely. And so you'd have people working in the building late at night, potentially. We designed it so you have the pull-in lots that can accommodate food trucks. There's a loading zone in that back area. I will note that one of the challenges with this lot and this site is the fact that the parking is a little restricted just based on the size of the lot, but knowing that we have several parcels next door to it, we feel like there's a workable solution on the entire campus, if you will. This is a schematic of the indoor of it, and I apologize, it's a little blurry, but I'll kind of walk you through it. As you're at the top, that faces Russell Street. To the left-hand side is Oak Street. On the left-hand side, you'll note the two blue areas. Those are really the only public parts of this building. So there would be a small pickup window area, so that would accommodate businesses that have take-and-go meals, ghost kitchen type situations. You may have Uber or DoorDash picking up it for delivery from a vendor that's working in the building. And then there at the other side is the tasting room. So think of a caterer bringing in clients to have a tasting of their menu, things like that. If you look at more of the kind of peach shaded areas or pink areas, those are areas that would be shared use more for the vendors in the building. So immediately to the right of the tasting room is the manager's office. So offices for the operator. To the bottom of the tasting room, you have a shared break room for the folks that are working in the building. And then kind of that middle area is all the shared use prep area. So think of a vendor would sign up and for a number of hours to be able to use a station or stations in that prep area. There's a counter space for them to prepare their food. There's freezers. There's cooktops. Kind of in the bottom, there's a shared dry storage area. and then to the bottom right would be a large walk-in refrigerator and freezer. And these are shared. They have allocated bins where they keep their food. Carrie is very up to date on the health code regulations, and that, you know, different foods have to be separated in different ways, and so that's a very important function of that. Staying at the bottom in the kind of gray shaded area are kind of the utility aspects of the building. There's a electric room, a fire room, and then restrooms for people working in the building. If you go to the top, and then there's two bays on the side that are kind of in a green color, those are the condos. So think of it this way: if you're an entrepreneur, you're starting your business, you're using the shared use space, and you're successful, and you're building your business, and you can graduate to a condo. And what that does for you, it gets you a dedicated smaller space. You still have access to the shared use refrigerator and freezer, but you have a space where you can secure your food, your equipment that you use, your pots and pans, and so these condos have some have cooktops and hoods. So if you're preparing hot meals, some are more dry. You know, without that, if think of a charcuterie business may use a condo that doesn't have a cooktop and a hood. Are there any questions on this? I know it's a little detailed, but.
So would there be a long-term lease for the condos, or is that, I mean, if I secure it, is it like a year lease, or how would that work?
I think that's kind of to be determined. We've seen a number of, as I said, we've visited a number of different facilities, and there's kind of different methods to each of those. I would think that a condo space would be more of a longer term, where if you're using the shared use space, it may be more of a shorter term or an allotment of hours a week. But that's scheduling. But I would anticipate that the condo would be a longer term arrangement, just based on the fact that they have to move all their equipment in there, and that kind of lends itself to that. Let's get to a few of the renderings, the pretty pictures. So this is the view from Russell Street, and you see the on-street parking. Obviously, it's well landscaped. You see a couple of the architectural elements with the chef's hat there and the whisk. We joked about having a little ratatouille coming up from the chef's hat, but I don't think we'll do that. May get into trademark with Disney or Pixar. That's kind of a side view, so that would be the public entrance, and then the walkway coming up there on the left would come up from the public parking lot. The site it is sloped a bit, and so you see there on the side kind of that terraced garden, but we think that has an opportunity to also serve as maybe an herb garden for the folks in the building, to have fresh herbs planted out there. We also, knowing that the RAISE grant is coming there, we feel like we could have a good connection from Russell Street down Oak Street. We even talked about potentially having food truck hookups. So if there's a larger event or festival, having power hookups on Oak Street, so food trucks could roll in there, hook up, and you could service a festival or something like that. That's just a shot of the inside. So the architect felt it was important to kind of highlight for the public the entrance, and using that bold kind of red tile would help make that really known that that's the entrance. And then here's just another side shot of as you would look at it from Oak Street with the terraced gardens. So let's talk about the funding and funding to date. So as I mentioned, we did receive a $2 million federal appropriation, and that funding has to be committed by the end of 2026, so by December 31, 2026. City funding, as I mentioned before, the city did allocate $2 million of funds that were made available from ARPA, and we budgeted $350,000 in the current year's budget, in the PAYGO budget, and then we have planned another $350 in next year's PAYGO budget. We have a total of $4.7 million. We've sought grants from the Golden Leaf Foundation and the Southeast Crescent Regional Commission State Economic Development Program. Those were not successful. We did get good feedback, I think, from Golden Leaf, and we're told that there may be some other opportunities in the future from the Golden Leaf Foundation. And we continue to and have explored other governmental or private foundation grants. We continue to do that. Our new lead for NC Fellow that just started with us, I've asked her to look and to work with our business librarian to see if we can find other grant sources that may be out there specific to this type of operation. And now we have our cost estimate. I will put in just a caveat at the beginning of this. This is a very conservative estimate. Our architect, and as they work through their cost estimation, has stressed that it's really a unique facility. And so it's unlike building just a tilt wall building for logistics or something. So there are a lot of, I would say there are some contingencies built in this. So the big numbers there, the building at $5 million, that works out to a little bit over $400 a square foot, which that's a larger number. We were surprised when we saw the number. I'll put it that way. We've got a kitchen equipment estimate of $900,000. Soft cost, that estimate can include things like additional engineering or architectural design that weren't included in the first contract because it's a unique facility, project management fees. It also includes all the furnitures and fixtures for the building outside of the kitchen equipment, which is broken out there separately. Includes IT equipment cost, any geotechnical or site work that's in addition to what's there. And then, of course, we have a contingency amount for that project. When we received this initial number, we went back to the architect and we said, tell us, let's value engineer this a little bit. Tell us how we can get this number down. You see that bottom bullet there of a pre-engineered structure alternative. That cut about $940,000 off the initial estimate. We feel like that's an alternative that may not be nearly as nice looking as the renderings that we showed you, but it is an alternative. So as our next steps, we continue to pursue additional funding opportunities to make up that gap. As we identify additional funding, the intent is to issue an RFQ kind of simultaneously for a construction manager at risk to build this project, as well as a kitchen operator that will eventually run and manage the facility for the city. I believe that's, now we're at questions.
I'm a little surprised. I'm a little surprised by the cost estimate. So is the plan is to go ahead and start building and figure out the money part, or to figure out the money part to know we have the 8 or 9 million in the bank, so to speak, and then kick it off?
The money part really needs to be identified and figured out first before we kick anything off.
Okay, well, that's good. Makes me feel better. So the kitchen operator, I mean, is the thought that the operator would pay the city, and it's up to them to run the facility and make money or break even or whatever, if they're a nonprofit, or they're thinking the city's going to have to subsidize, at least for a couple of years, the operation to make sure it's successful?
I think we have some unknowns. I think the idea is depending on what operator steps up and submits a proposal. I think all those details will be in the proposals that they submit. I don't know that, I think the intent, or the city's intent, is that the operator would, it would be self-sufficient for the operator. We would not pay an operator to be in the building, but we may, the city may pay things like utility cost and facility cost so that the operator doesn't have that overhead burden necessarily built into their business plan.
Yeah.
That's kind of the incubation part of, I guess, this project, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Is there any way to phase it a little bit so that maybe the building's built, but like those condo units? Because I don't know if, I mean, they may get filled immediately at once, but at least the shared use space could start and then wait and then upfit the condo areas later, so it's kind of like a phased process?
We did discuss that with the architect. That is a possibility. The two things the two negatives to that is it doesn't save a whole lot of cost up front, because a large part of the cost, obviously the envelope of the building, it's really important to build it, unless you build a smaller building and then come back and add on to it. Because think about all the infrastructure that is required for those spaces, plumbing, electric. So you basically have to put all that infrastructure in, and then if you were to upfit later, kind of like when a business leases a space and does tenant upfits, all the infrastructure is already there. They're just putting the finishing touches on it, if you will. The other challenge to that is, think about a working kitchen, and then you come back and you need to upfit or remodel, and now you have a working kitchen working next to basically a construction area. And so those two, the cleanliness that's required in a working kitchen versus the not so clean upfit and construction trade doesn't really work together in an operating kitchen together at the same time. But we did discuss that possibility.
And then I have another question. So what other municipalities have done a project like this?
So a couple of examples that we visited were the Piedmont Food Processing Center, which was built by Orange County, I believe, and it's in Hillsborough. It's operated by a nonprofit venture, but the county built the facility and leased it to this operator. That's been an ongoing business for 10 or 15 years at least, and we consulted very heavily with their director, Eric Hallman. He visited us at least twice, and we visited them. I'm looking at Heidi because she's done a lot of the real work here. I'm just up here talking to you. We're also involved with what's called NCNIC, which is the Incubator Kitchen Consortium. They meet on a regular basis, share ideas. The second facility that, and one of them that I visited, was the Blue Ridge Food Processing, or Blue Ridge Venture, that's on the campus of Buncombe County Community College. So it's with kind of partnered with education. Dr. Harmon visited with us as well as a number of other community members. Those are two examples. There are a number of examples and a number of, I would say, arrangements on how these things are owned, operated, and managed. And where we are right now, we have the opportunity to kind of pick and choose which way we want to operate and manage, and I think part of what we'll understand, or where we'll be when we build it, it may be completely different in 5 years, just because we'll learn what works best in High Point. I will also mention there are a number of private shared use kitchen ventures, City Kitch being one, Short Street in Kernersville, and we've talked to and got to know those folks a little bit and understand their model. So, this isn't strictly a model that is, government builds it, subsidizes it, and somebody else operates. It's also a business that I assume returns a capital to their owners and stockholders. So it can be a for-profit venture as well.
Speaking of a connection with educational institutions, I mean, GTCC is a culinary program, and have y'all talked to GTCC about potential partnerships?
We have. They've been involved in I think I failed to mention, so we had the initial convening with the large group, and after that, we broke out, we had a smaller committee with some subcommittees. Involved in that were folks from GTCC, from their culinary program, as well as from their entrepreneurship program. And so they've been very involved in this. Trying to think, we've had Guilford County Health very involved in that, because we know that a lot of times with this type of venture, the health department is a key partner in helping get us having it done right. And so we've done that as well. But they have definitely been at the table and been involved in the conversations and informed the decisions that have been made thus far.
Any other questions?
No, yeah, for the moment, I think.
Okay, so this is not an action item, so there is no vote, and this completes the presentation. So thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you.
Everybody be safe. It's raining out there.
Avoid streets with trees, which is not my neighborhood.
We done?
Monica, have you met Jody?
She didn't make me.
New Growing High Point Executive Director.
Oh, good.
And Lauren, who just came on board.
She can.